Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to explore one of the absolute most efficient, fully automated water treatment facilities in existence. And guess what? It's right inside you. We're talking about the human excretory system.
Let's dive right in with a bit of a biological mystery. Your body actually pumps 180 liters of fluid through its internal filters every single day. That's roughly the size of a large bathtub. Yet, the average adult only pees out about 1.5 liters of urine daily. So where does all that fluid go, and how in the world do we manage such a massive volume without completely drying out? Keep that in the back of your mind as we go.
Here's our agenda for this explainer. We'll cover 1. The body's toxic waste problem. 2. The ultimate water treatment plant. 3. 3 steps to perfect urine. 4. Hormones, the factory floor managers. 5. Other surprising waste disposal organs. And finally, 6. System failures and modern miracles.
Section 1. The body's toxic waste problem. Just by staying alive, digesting food, moving around, our cells are constantly generating metabolic waste. And how different animals handle this nitrogenous waste really comes down to one thing: water availability. Aquatic animals like fish excrete highly toxic ammonia, which requires massive amounts of water to flush out. Birds and reptiles, they excrete uric acid as a paste, requiring almost zero water loss. We mammals sit right in the middle. We convert metabolic ammonia into urea in the liver, which is less toxic and requires only a moderate amount of water to excrete.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the ultimate water treatment plant.
So, the human urinary system basically consists of a pair of kidneys, 2 ureters, a urinary bladder, and a urethra. Now those kidneys, they're these reddish-brown, bean-shaped organs tucked right at the back of your abdominal cavity, and they weigh just 120 to 170 grams each. Not very big, right? Yet they are the absolute powerhouses of this whole operation, receiving a massive blood supply directly from the heart.
If we slice a kidney open, we see 2 main processing zones, the outer cortex and the inner medulla. That medulla is actually divided into these conical masses called medullary pyramids, which project into the funnel-shaped renal pelvis. And at a microscopic level, these zones pack in nearly 1 million complex tubular structures per kidney. These are called nephrons, and they are the true functional units of the plant.
Section 3. 3 steps to perfect urine.
Okay, so urine formation is essentially a highly regulated 3-step conveyor belt system. Step 1 is glomerular filtration. This is where blood enters a tuft of capillaries called the glomerulus under really high pressure, literally squeezing plasma into Bowman's capsule, catching pretty much everything except proteins. Step 2 is reabsorption, where your body brilliantly retrieves the good stuff like glucose, amino acids, and water. Finally, step 3 is secretion, where cells actively pump any remaining toxins and ions into the filtrate to maintain the body's delicate acid-base balance.
And this actually brings us right back to our initial mystery. Remember? We filter 180 liters of fluid a day, but only output 1.5 liters. Well, the secret is 99%. Literally 99% of the volume filtered from your blood in step 1 is strategically reabsorbed by the renal tubules in step 2. Your body meticulously conserves water and vital nutrients, discarding only the really concentrated waste. It's incredibly efficient.
Now, this whole recycling process relies on something called the countercurrent mechanism. Inside the nephron, there's this hairpin-shaped tube called the loop of Henle that runs parallel to a blood vessel called the vasa recta. And here's the kicker. Fluid flows through them in opposite directions. This opposing flow, combined with the transport of salt and urea, creates a massive concentration gradient deep in the kidney tissue. It acts just like a giant sponge pulling water back into the body, which allows human kidneys to produce urine nearly 4 times more concentrated than the initial filtered liquid.
Section 4. Hormones, the factory floor managers.
This right here is basically the smart plumbing of our system. When blood flow drops, the renin-angiotensin mechanism kicks in. It releases an enzyme called renin to constrict blood vessels and raise blood pressure, keeping that filtration rate perfectly steady. But if pressure gets too high, the heart actually steps in. Increased blood flow to the heart triggers the release of atrial natriuretic factor, or ANF. ANF dilates the blood vessels, acting as an emergency brake to keep the entire system perfectly balanced.
Section 5. Other surprising waste disposal organs.
As it turns out, the kidneys aren't alone in this. Your lungs are actually heavy-duty excretory organs, removing about 200 milliliters of carbon dioxide every single minute. The liver, it processes degraded hormones and cholesterol, dumping them into bile to be removed through digestive waste. And your skin's sweat glands cool you down while simultaneously pushing out a watery fluid that contains salt, lactic acid, and small amounts of urea. Meanwhile, your sebaceous glands eliminate sterols and waxes through sebum, basically protecting the skin while taking out the trash.
Section 6. System Failures and Modern Miracles.
Well, long before a total system failure, your kidneys offer some pretty incredible diagnostic clues. By analyzing the 1.5 liters of slightly acidic, yellow fluid we excrete daily, doctors can actually peek into the metabolic health of your entire body. For instance, the presence of glucose, which is known as glycosuria, or ketone bodies in the urine are primary indicators of diabetes mellitus. So your urine is essentially a daily status report printed directly by your internal factory.
But what happens if the kidneys fail? Well, urea builds up in the blood, a really dangerous condition called uremia. And this is where modern science steps in with hemodialysis. This process routes the patient's blood into a machine that acts as an artificial kidney. Inside this unit is a coiled, porous cellophane tube suspended in a dialyzing fluid. Because the cellophane is porous, it mimics those exact biological concentration gradients we just discussed. Toxic urea diffuses out of the blood into the fluid, while vital proteins safely stay inside. Then, the newly cleaned blood is pumped right back into the patient. It's a literal lifesaver.
So we've covered the microscopic filters, the 99% reabsorption rate, the countercurrent gradients, and the smart plumbing hormones. It's just a tireless, magnificent balancing act happening inside you right now. And next time you break a sweat or take a simple bathroom break, ask yourself, what exactly is your body balancing today? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.